years, and all the other guys who have to get woken up bleary-eyed and be cut from that team and broken-hearted and wish they were there. You know, they handle it with such class, as Esposito has, and you know, they're part of the reason. You can make another Team Canada that would be competitive at this tournament. That is part of the process that makes this team as mentally tough as it is in many cases and creates such a competitive environment in the camp. You know, you look at the Americans, they do things a little differently. They name a final team in mid-December and say, there it is, that's the team. They come together and they play. In Canada, there's always that final competition camp. So if you have a good October or November, it can impact on how your standing is for that team. Keep in mind, too, think of a couple of guys at home right now. Corey Emerton, Nick Spaulding. Two guys that were probably going to be on Team Canada, both diagnosed with mononucleosis during the evaluation week. One before the turn, in the medicals, just before the first practice. The other on the just before the final scrimmage, before they picked the team. Both of those guys likely would have been on this team, but if they were on the team, there would have been a couple of guys that weren't, and one of those guys might have been Steven Stamkos. The door opened for him. So, you know, one guy's misfortune is another guy's opportunity, but there's a couple of kids that I'm sure went home heartbroken from Calgary, and they're looking at this now thinking, what if? But they should know, as did as you pointed out, all the kids that got cut from the team, that it's all part of the process that Hockey Canada puts together to make this the most competitive thing that can possibly be. Okay, let's hear from a guy we knew that was not going to get cut from this team because he was there last year, and he was terrific on defense again this year. Captain Carl Alsner with James Cybulski.
Captain Carl Alsner, 2 gold medals in a row. How does it feel? Yeah, it feels unbelievable. Last year was great for me, just being able to watch more than I played, just to see how everything happened and how unbelievable the group of guys was and how focused they were from start to finish. And for this year, I got my chance to help lead a young group of guys, and it's just such a big accomplishment for me and for all the other guys to help lead a team to a final, to a gold medal. Going through that storm earlier this week and everything, knowing what you have to go through to reach this, does it make this year that much sweeter? It does, yeah. Just knowing that some of the guys get on the forums after a game, and I remember one of them that really just fired us up is somebody said it's clear that Canada has no chance of winning this tournament, and hearing something like that really you know, brought our group together and just fired us up even more, and getting through all that adversity and showing how badly our team wanted it and how, you know, how big our hearts were. So if that fired you up, how much did it fire you up to hear that Patrick Berglund wanted to face you guys in the gold medal, to beat you guys twice? Yeah, that definitely circulated in our dressing room before the game and in between periods. Our Coach Hartsburg came in and said, you know, their captain wants to play us again, and he's got it. So let's really show him how we can play, and that's what we did. We wanted to show them that they didn't want us another time, and they didn't. You'd say enough about the job Steve Mason did between the pipes? It was unbelievable for him. He deserves all of those awards that he won. He stood in, you know, so strong. His rebound control once again was unbelievable. Playing the puck, it's huge having him in the net for us, and you know, I'm happy with the accomplishment that he's made. Last one for you, but you and Team Canada, just something about a flair for the dramatic out there. Yeah, I like to say that we wanted to just make it nice for the fans and everybody watching on TV, but we didn't plan it that way, but I'm happy that we came out on the top end of that. Congratulations, Carl. Thank you very much.
Boy, you heard him talk about the criticism, which frankly I didn't hear a lot of in this country. It's come to this now. This is the age we're in. You get bulletin board material from internet hockey board sites. Whatever it is that motivates them, I guess it worked. Let's hear from the guys who called this entire tournament, Gord Miller and Pierre Maguire.
You know, you come to this thing long enough and you will see and hear everything. What a dramatic way for it to end. And when you think about this Canadian team, just the way it was put together, so many players have been cut from AAA teams or other careers. Guys have been cut at previous camps who were disappointed. And when it comes down to the overtime goal, the theme of redemption really comes again.
There's no question about it. You know, you look at Sean Matthias and the way he stepped up to create that Matt Halischuk game-winning goal for Canada. You also have to look at Steve Mason, the way he played in goal for Canada. Everybody was saying it should be Bernier going forward from here on in because Mason stumbled and bumbled. Well, he didn't. He played very well. And Sean Matthias, he iced the puck. He lost a face-off. Sweden tied the game in the last minute. And then all of a sudden, he's an overtime hero setting up Matt Halischuk. So this was about redemption. I also think, Gord, we need to talk about youthful enthusiasm. We need to talk about Steven Stamkos and John Tavares and the way they played. We need to talk about Drew Doughty and Luke Shen and the way they played. Everybody talks about the importance for having stability in old age. Sometimes there's a lot to be said for youthful enthusiasm, and youthful enthusiasm got this team over the top.
So Canada has won 4 gold medals in a row. Now the Canadians return home. 10 players from this team eligible to come back when the Canadians will try to match the feat of the Canadian juniors from 1993 to 97 and win a 5th consecutive World Junior Gold Medal. Have a chance to do it on home ice. It was a blast, Pierre, and it was a great finish to a terrific tournament. Let's send it back to James.
All right, guys, as we take you to the bottom of the clock, lots more coverage, of course, ahead on SportsCenter. Let us talk before we go definitely about the goaltender. The goaltending controversy was probably the biggest story of this tournament for Team Canada. The move paid off for Craig Hartsburg, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And you say a goaltending controversy, and it was one of those almost good controversies because it wasn't like either of the goaltenders ever had a moment where they were terrible. It was, it wasn't like the coach couldn't look down the bench and say, well, who am I going to go to in this situation? He decided after starting Jonathan Bernier in Game 1 and Game 3 against the harder teams that he wanted to go with Steve Mason, that the meltdown against Sweden in the third period, that he wanted to give Mason an opportunity. Well, Mason has that bad game against the Finns. Didn't have a bad game. Let in a bad goal from the blue line and one from behind the net, and that got people thinking, well, maybe Bernier should come back. But at no time did Craig Hartsburg ever really decide that he was going to do that. He wanted to keep Mason in there. He sees him a lot in the Ontario Hockey League. We said it before, we'll say it again. He has a huge comfort zone and confidence level in Steve Mason, and Mason justified that every step of the way after the fact. Named the top goalie in the tournament, named the tournament MVP on a team, though, where there were probably 20 MVPs by the time it was all said and done. Yeah. This truly was a team effort, and as good as Mason was, I'm not sure there was any one individual you could point to and say, that was the guy that made the difference in the tournament, because you could just keep going on the list of Kyle Turris and Brad Marchand, Luke Schenn, Carl Alsner, Doughty, on and on.
And again, it begins and ends, I suppose, with the coach, Craig Hartsburg, who had to make some of those tough decisions and made everyone right, it turns out.
Made some real good moves. Brought John Tavares into the 13th forward. People criticized that, but brought him up in the lineup, kept them motivated, thought that was a good plan. Then there was the goaltending buttons. He had to push. He pushed the buttons. They worked. He ended up with a gold medal in his back pocket. And there were people, Brad Marchand wasn't playing as well as maybe that people thought. Yank him off, Pierre said it, I said it. Take him off of the top line, try and mix things up a little bit. He stayed with it, and the Turris, Marchand, and Giroux line justified the faith and the patience. So Hartsburg, back-to-back gold medals, did a great job.
Again, lots more coverage of Canada's 4th straight World Junior Championship ahead on SportsCenter. I often say that Canada is the largest small town in the world, and that's what makes this tournament so popular. So I leave you by naming off all the small towns that have helped been responsible, the coaches, the players, the opponents that have played with these kids. Laval, Quebec, Kingston, Ontario, Milestone, Saskatchewan, Calgary, Alberta, London, Ontario, Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Rexdale, Ontario, Burnaby, BC, Oakville, Ontario, Unionville, Ontario, Airdrie, Alberta, Red Deer, Alberta, Hammonds Plains, Nova Scotia, Surrey, BC, New Westminster, BC, Regina, Saskatchewan, Mississauga, Pickering, Ottawa, Ontario. You all were a part in Canada's 4th straight gold medal at the World Junior Hockey Championship. The quad is complete. They go for 5 in a row next year in Ottawa. We appreciate all of you watching some or all of our coverage of the World Junior Hockey Championship. It's our favorite event of the year. We thank you, and we thank the crew who's been in here and over in the Czech Republic giving up their holidays. You did a terrific job, as always. This has been a presentation of TSN, Canada's sports leader.